In this demonstration, we'll take a look at storage spaces. Storage spaces let you combine individual physical hard disks into a storage pool that can then be managed as a single entity. Storage spaces provide a software-based level of redundancy without the need for additional hardware or software. Let's take a look at conceptually how this works, starting with the physical disks, which can be SATA or serial attached SCSI, but they must be blank and unformatted without any volumes. The disks are collected into storage pools. Based on your needs, you can have one or more storage pools, and you can dynamically add physical disks at any time. A storage space is an administrative layer that lets you configure disk allocation and resiliency in case a disk fails in the pool. Storage spaces are divided into disks and volumes for users and applications to easily use. Let's take a look at how this is implemented. We begin by selecting File and Storage Services in Server Manager and then Storage Pools. Nothing special needs to be installed. And then within Windows Storage, there is a primordial storage pool when you initially begin, and it includes all of the different physical disks that are available to be used in the storage pools. Now, these physical disks are unformatted, they have no volumes, and they're not part of a storage pool. So after you decide how you would like to organize those physical disks, just right-click the primordial pool and select New Storage Pool. And that'll launch the wizard. And the first thing you need to do is give your storage pool a name. I'll use Storage Pool 1 and select your server, which for us is Lawn SVR1. Next, you'll want to pick the disks that you'd like to have included in the storage pool. Now, you can designate a disk as a hot spare. These are disks that are reserved for replacing a failed disk, or you can just let the storage pool use spare capacity on other disks. This is the automatic method. It's typically faster, so that's what I will select here. That's it. Just review your selections, click Create, and it'll take just a minute for the storage pool to be created. After creating your storage pool, you will need to create a virtual disk, and there's a link to the new virtual disk wizard. And once the wizard comes up, the first thing you need to do is to give your virtual disk a name. I'll go with Virtual Disk 1. And this is also the page where you can create a storage tier on the virtual disk. Storage tiers provide increased performance by storing frequently used data on your high-performance SSDs. We'll skip past enclosure awareness and go over to storage layout, which looks at the resiliency methods that are available. The first one, Simple, writes data without any extra copies or parity, so there is no protection from disk failure. And that might be okay if your underlying storage already has some type of resiliency method. Mirror is our second choice. It simultaneously writes data to two or more separate disks. So if one of the disks fail, the data can still be accessed. To protect against a single disk failure, you need at least 2 disks, 3 if you're using a cluster, and to protect against 2 disk failures, you need to use at least 5 disks. And our last choice is parity. Parity stripes your data, which increases reliability, but somewhat reduces capacity and performance. To protect against a single disk failure, use at least 3 disks, and to protect against 2 disk failures, use at least 7 disks. Next, on the provisioning type page, a thin volume uses space as needed, and a fixed volume uses space equal to the volume size. I'll go with thin. Of course, your virtual disk needs a size. I'll give it 5 gigabytes. And that's it. Just confirm your choices and create your virtual disk. This also takes just a minute. After the virtual disk wizard completes, the new volume wizard will automatically start. You'll be prompted to provision the server and the virtual disk that you created. You'll have to provide a size. I'll use about 5 gigabytes. And a drive letter to access it. I'll use the F drive. You can use different file systems. I'll use NTFS. And after confirming your choices, just complete the volume wizard. I think most people have created a new volume on a disk. There's nothing different here. The last thing we need to do is use File Explorer to check and see if the volume is available for users and applications, and it is. So in summary, during this demonstration, we created a new storage pool with a virtual disk. And your course does have a lab on this, including a PowerShell version of the lab, so please be sure to give it a try.